Alright, perfect. Hey guys, what's going on today?
Hey, you playing with your Barbie dolls again?
They're not Barbies, they're Japanese action figures.
Oh, so they're like slanty-eye sex dolls?
No, that's not it, okay? Gosh, get out of here. You just don't understand. But you guys understand though, right? You know, if you understand, click that like and subscribe button. And if you don't understand, then leave me a comment why you're not cool enough to hang out here, okay? But today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna review this new We're gonna review this new Figma that I got. So Figma is basically Japanese action figures. And the reason why I like them a lot is because there's a lot of detail, but most of the ones that I buy are like gun related, like action, cool stuff, not girls. Don't pay attention to half of these. But yeah, basically this one is from a series called Little Armory, and they're girls who shoot guns and do cool stuff. So this one is, her name is Teruyasu Maria from Little Armory Figma action figure series. So yeah, action figures are cool, just like G.I. Joes are cool and stuff. So as you can see here, you know, there's some box art on here. You can see like a couple of her friends. Like I have Mio right here, and she's like part of that series. And you know, you got basically, she's super posable, so you can pose her however you like, not pervertedly, just pose her in regular ways. So you can see like how she's like prone with the rifle. I think that's like one of the coolest parts about her. So she's like a sniper, so she's able to like pose in these positions. Normally the neck joint doesn't allow you to actually move in the direction of basically prone positioning, so like that's kind of a cool feature. And yeah, it's like I think this guy just like drew these like art sort of like I guess like pictures and stuff, and then Figma was like, let's team up with that guy and set up like you know, like figure versions of his drawings. So this is kind of where that comes from. So that's pretty much what the box looks like. Let's open it up and check it out. Bam! Feels like Christmas. Okay. So this one is SP-106. SPs usually designate that they're special. In this case, she is, well, let's see if she's special enough to be waifu here. So let's take a look here. First, you do have to build these, so some assembly is required. I don't know if there's like an age. It says age 15 and up. So thankfully, I'm at least 15 years old. Which is good. So, you know, that way I should have the skills that I've learned in school to assemble such a device of some sort. I mean, you know, I've played with Legos like everyone else when they were a kid. But anyway, looks like we're going to have to build that, so we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, basically you do have to build the Barrett rifle that comes with, and there is quite a bit of assembly there. So they come in these plastic cases, and thankfully enough, I don't actually have to cut it open. So let's take a look at this. Oh God, here we go. Now you can see I've got all her stuff laid out. Definitely wanted to put her in a really natural pose. You know, I'm not really sure what she's doing there, but it seemed natural, so that's the direction that we went with that one. So let's get the boring stuff out of the way. You get, you know, directions that kind of show you how this works, you know, Superman pose and like all that stuff. You know, shoulder joints pop out and that kind of stuff. Let's see here. So this is kind of like all the stuff you get, hands, bag, and all that stuff. I'll show you that in a second. And then this is instructions on how to build the gun. Holy fuck, that looks complicated. Yeah, that's a lot of steps. I don't think I'm actually going to build this right now. It looks cool, though. It is, I mean, it looks just like the Barrett, you know, so you get what you get, but that's a lot of work. So let's see. Detailing on her, pretty nice. Flexibility-wise, I would assume it's pretty standard in terms of, like, you've got, you know, rotating and bending forward and bending back on the ankle joint. Knee joint goes pretty far back. I mean, she can get on her knees, so that's fine. She's got knee pads to assist with being on her knees. a lot, I guess. Skirt, pretty flexible, so that way if you have to do running poses or other poses, the skirt does allow for some movement. Whoops, some movement there, which is nice. And the detailing is pretty nice too. You can kind of see like some wrinkles. Wait a minute, is that like, that's on purpose, right? Yeah, okay, so the skirt looks ruffled because action posing. Yep, because remember, these are action figures, not anime waifu dolls. So anyway, moving on, she's got like a kind of like a sweater look, which is kind of interesting. So kind of on the baggier side, not as appealing to me, but honestly I think it falls true to probably the artwork and the styling, which also lends to her like super like zombie-ish dead eyes, which we were kind of noticing. Just not as like vibrant or vivid as some of the other Figmas that we've seen in the past. But other detailing is great. I think her gloves look super cool. She comes with like these like wolf gray man tactical Oakley pilot gloves, I guess, which I don't even think actually exists. I don't think you can get pilot gloves in this color, but hey, it's custom. And it goes well with the skirt, so accessorize, right? So yeah, you know, it's kind of got like, I mean, some flexibility here with, like standard flexibility with the arms. Although I will say, I guess that's a pretty standard bend for the arm, and then straightened out. You got your wrist ball joints. This is a 2.0 figure since it's pretty late release. So basically her hands have basically a swivel as well as rotational, which is actually super nice for a lot of different types of poses that you can do with them. And the shoulder joints as well actually pop in and out. So that way, like if there's certain poses that require her to reach around, like for instance the rifle buttstocks, then you're able to pull her joints out just a little bit to extend the movement around a certain object, which I think is actually really cool. I think that's also kind of a newish feature, or potentially something that is only on certain Figmas, since that's not really like a standard feature. And yeah, she has interchangeable heads as well as faceplates. The reason for this is that this is an alternative headpiece, so you'd actually remove the ponytails to attach to here, and I guess this is the piece that you'd want to use for prone, so you can kind of see how far the peg goes back, and basically that will allow you to get that Superman like sniper pose. So yeah, her faceplates and I guess the front of her hair is exchangeable, so that way if you want, because the eye pro is actually attached to the front of her hair, then you can kind of switch those around if you want her wearing eye pro or not. Oh my god, cyborgs. Alright, so yeah, you can see how she's got her eye pro on now, and kind of looks a little nerdy if you ask me, but I guess that makes sense for what she's doing. Shooting at the range, you know, eye protection first. No ear protection though. That's exclusively for Mio, not for her. But anyway, yeah, hair joints, or quote-unquote joints, I guess. They're flexible, so you can kind of move her hair around, and they do swivel at the part that attaches to her head. So I guess it's like, if you want her hair like flying back while she's like running around, you can totally do that. And yeah, that pretty much covers the figure. So let's look at some of the accessories that she comes with. So this is kind of funny. This Ammo's bag is totally not a Adidas ripoff, but you know, kind of like a shoulder bag, so you can kind of tuck that into here. Once again, reiterating that this is not a Barbie or doll figure, but truly Japanese action figure, because action.
Slanty-eye sex dolls.
No, they're not. God damn it. They're cool, okay? Jeez. So, yeah, pretty much, you know, I don't really know, like, why she comes with this bag, honestly. I think this is mainly just, like, a joke that they included. But we'll go with that. So, this is the base in which you use to pose her prone, which this is kind of disappointing to me that they couldn't figure out how to make it so that she could truly prone just off the ground, because now it's going to look like she's just like floating off the ground like 2 feet. But I mean, you got to do what you got to do, I guess. Maybe it was like some of the design made it so that she'd be like super ugly if she had the ability to prone like that. She's not as flexible as some of the other characters that I have or other Figmas, like this snake figure actually can like go into full crawl prone and like do like every possible yoga move imaginable. But I imagine that the body style that Maria comes in is not quite as flexible. I don't even think her midsection moves at all, which is kind of interesting. Because a lot of the joints, well, I guess her waist you can kind of swivel around a little bit, but there's not really too much movement beyond that. She also comes with some interchangeable hands, and actually the base piece on this is actually really nice and clean. So as you can see, it says Figma on the base piece, and that's how you kind of like keep track of all the extra hands and like sort of store them away without just having loose hands all over the place. So these guys, you just pop them in and out. Looks like you have, so basically index hands. Holy crap, so many right hands. There's 4 different right hands, I guess, for index and also finger on the trigger, which is kind of interesting. And then her left hands, you only get 3, technically 4 if you count the one that's on her hand right now. But 3 left hands and 6 right hands, which is kind of interesting. I guess part of this is like for racking the bolts of the Barrett. So that's kind of cool. It's like a dedicated, sometimes they come with dedicated hands if it's like in relation to some of the accessories or like posing from, like oftentimes Figma will do characters from anime and shows and stuff, and so because of that they may have a specific hand that allows them to do a certain action type, because these are totally action figures. Yeah. And yeah, this is the standard base piece that comes with the figures, so that way if there's certain poses that are not achievable as they stand alone, then you can use this as an assist. The really cool thing about this one is normally the bars are supposed to be clear like this. Some of the ones that I've received recently have these little bubbles, where it's basically just like quality control is kind of lower. This base piece looks very, very clean, even though it is made in China. But they did a great job on that. It's just very nice and clear, clean. I like that. And it's also stiff, but you're able to move it with relative ease as well. So I think they did a great job on that. And in addition to that, you get an extra little ball joint for the wrist. I think like basically give you an extra one just in case you lose or break one with each figure. And the final part of this is you get the Barrett. So one thing that's kind of interesting is they came out as like model kits, so you're supposed to build it, which is cool in the sense that when you buy it, it's not just like a figure on its own. It's like, oh, there's like an activity associated with it, but at the same time, this kind of pisses me off because it's a lot of work, and it also makes it so that most of the time the weapon systems that you get after they're built up, they are very fragile. So what's interesting is these are very small, but they are snap together pieces. So technically you should be able to build every weapon system just by snapping it together, but oftentimes the tabs are so small, or sometimes not figured a certain way that when you put them together they kind of flex or bend and then pop apart. So the best way to have it be secure is to just super glue all the pieces together and make it like a solid piece. The problem with doing this is if you super glue it all together, it's not reconfigurable. So for example, some of the other weapon systems that Little Armory makes, there's accessories that are removable and changeable, just like the real counterpart. So if you have like a scope on a rifle or something, the scope is removable from the weapon. So like this one, the Barrett comes with a long range scope, and I believe they design it to where you're able to slide the optic on and off the gun. But if you do it this way, it will either be super loose and potentially fall off all the time. So when you're posing or like moving the figure around with it, then like that piece could fall off really easily, or it'll become loose over time, or you potentially have the hazard of breaking the tabs and then you can't attach the scope at all. So there is sort of, I guess, some negative drawbacks to having an assembled component like this. But it does give, you know, some pretty good detailing, and there are certain aspects of it that are kind of cool. Like, for instance, depending on the weapon type, like we'll use the AR again, for example. The AR has removable magazines. Actually, this one does too. So actually, this one has bullets and removable magazine. And, you know, the upper and lower half of the AR is actually disassemblable, just like a real one. But if you're going to actually move it around a lot, or actually, I guess, quote unquote, play around with these, once again, they're action figures. Then
Whatever you say, guy.
Then basically, you know, it makes it so it's much more difficult to play with it if it's something that you're designed to where you can disassemble the actual weapon system. But yeah, once again, this is way too complicated for me to build right now, so I'm just gonna leave that alone. So instead, I will be posing her with this. So this is another Little Armory weapon system, and the nice thing about this one is it's very simple, and it's actually really usable because of how simple it is. And I'll kind of show you what I mean. Like this one, for instance, you have the bolt is actually something that you can flip up and pull to the rear, and so you can actually pose the gun with the bolt open, and basically, like, you can have, like, you know, whoever is using the weapon in like a mid, like, you're pulling the bolt to the rear, opening it up, closing it up again. So there's like movable components, and I believe it's also, yeah, you can take the bolt completely out, which is awesome. And then on top of that, you have a removable bipod, so you pull this guy right off, and now you can kind of just run the rifle straight up on its own. But it's very simple, and there's very few parts, and it's very sturdy, which is awesome. So if you're like moving it around and posing it with certain figures, it looks great. Let's take a look and see if we can get her to hold this guy. I'll probably have to change the hands out, but for now, could have her just like... So obviously not the most ideal pose, but you kind of get the idea where she can like hold the weapon in sort of like different ways. Obviously I would use better hands for this, but like, you know, if you're gonna set it up with like a prone setup, then yeah, you change the hands out and she can totally hold it in many different ways. Let's give that a try. Kind of have her like in like a prone-ish pose. It's not that ideal considering you do have to use this base to get her kind of in the right position. It does work without it. It's just, I guess, she just can't tilt her head quite back up to look through the scope if you do it without. But, I mean, you know, if you're looking from far away, it's not really that big of a deal. Like, you can definitely, like, see that she is kind of, like, holding the rifle. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, details, you know, pretty nice. I think like she's a good-looking figure. But once again, the flexibility, there is something to say about that, is that, you know, you have to sacrifice some to make the figure look better. So I would imagine that part of it is that, you know, she looks good, but her torso not being able to move, that's like kind of a side effect of like not being, you know... It's like you just looks better, but just not as flexible. All in all, though, I think a pretty solid figure. Figma is kind of getting more expensive. I've seen, you know, prices are going up, but generally speaking, you usually see that they tend to get more stuff or have like, you know, better joints and like things like that. So that's kind of the trade-off, I suppose, is that, you know, they're putting more like quote-unquote R&D into figures, I guess. I guess before I go, it should probably address the one thing that people are really thinking about when they came to look at this video, is that she has blue panties. Hope you liked the video. We have more Figmas coming in the future. We'll do some more reviews and stuff on some of the other figures I have. As you can see, I have a couple other ones. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Catch you next time.
Yeah.